All right, so you want to know how to analyze real estate deals from your laptop? Good, because I'm about to walk you through the exact 5-step process I use to evaluate any property deal without leaving my house. So for example, I just found one in Ohio 2 weeks ago. It was a 3-2, and what I do is I just ran it through my system, same system I show my coaching clients. I put it in a Google Sheet. I ranked it from 1 to 5. 1, that it's in great condition. 5, it's like, not really interested. This one was about a 1. Then I look at how long it's on market. I look at the ARV. I determine the as-is value, and then I look at what they're asking. So here's the deal. Most investors overthink the process. They get stuck in analysis paralysis. But when you know exactly what you're looking for, where to find it, you can determine if a property is worth pursuing in about 10 minutes. I've used this exact system to analyze literally thousands of deals across about 12 states, built a portfolio worth about $7 million. And the best part, I can do this anywhere as long as I got a laptop and a Wi-Fi. Step 1, you got to think like a virtual wealth flipper. All right, we're not looking for a fix and flip opportunity. We're not looking for a wholesale opportunity, right? We're not looking for a property where we got to negotiate at a discount or convince someone to give us the property at a discount. You want to look for properties that are anywhere between $20,000 and $50,000 listed for sale on market. And you want to look for properties in a condition where they're either livable or almost livable. Preferably, you want to look for properties where a single mom with 3 kids can move right in and live. I remember when I first found out about this strategy, it just made so much sense, right? Instead of struggling, trying to find an off-market deal, try to convince someone to give you their property at a discount, or trying to compete with everyone else in the marketplace that are looking for great deals. It just made so much sense just to buy a property that I could find online for, $10, $15, $20,000. And then once I realized that there are millions and millions of people out there who would love to get into home ownership, but they can't qualify for various different reasons, and that it would provide passive income for me, and that I can move so much faster and make so much more money, it was a no-brainer. And the beauty of this approach is that you're looking for solid, livable properties in working class areas, houses that regular families want to live in, but they can't qualify for traditional financing. You become the bank, they become the homeowners, everyone wins. Step 2, figure out what it's really worth without getting scammed. All right, now let's talk about property values, right? And no, Zillow's estimates are not your friend. I once made a mistake where I thought a property was worth about $90,000 based on estimates. And once I started to really run the numbers, I wasted so much time and so much effort. Turns out it was worth nowhere near as that. And in fact, it was worth less than what they were asking for. And based on what I'm about to show you, is how you're going to figure that out, right? So the number one tool that you're going to use is PropStream, all right? Now, in addition to PropStream, you're going to use every other residential site that they have available. So the popular ones are Redfin, Realtor.com, Trulia, and PropStream. And what you're going to do is you're going to take all of what they call the as-is or estimates of that property, and then you're going to take the average of that number. So if you have 4 sites that are giving you that information, one site says it's about 100,000, another site says it's about 95, 98, and 93, roughly, without even doing the math, the average of that as-is property is probably about $95,000, $96,000. So to give you a real world example, that property in Ohio I told you about, turns out that property is worth over $385,000. And had I not done and run my numbers, I wouldn't even known that. So what happened was I didn't even get an opportunity to pull it up on any other sites. But once I went to PropStream and pulled it up, I immediately seen 3 parcels come up. And I called the realtor back and I said, wait a minute, is this property coming with 3 parcels or is it just coming with the 1? And because I said, I'm getting 3 parcels. So like, what's going on here? He said, Michael, let me do my research. He called me back within 10 minutes and said, Mike, you're absolutely right. It's actually listed on the ad. This property is coming with 3 parcels. So now I was getting a property that they were only asking for $60,000, but was actually worth over $385,000. Because, I took my time and I did my due diligence and I ran my numbers. So factor, don't miss out on that. So step 3 is you want to calculate your virtual wealth flipping profit potential. Now, this is a part that I didn't even realize when I first started doing this. This wasn't something that I learned until like my 10th property of doing this. When you are selling a property or virtual wealth flipping a property, or selling it on seller financing or selling it on terms, with this specific strategy, what you want to look at is what you can get per month. And typically the way that you gauge what you can get per month on a property is by looking at the market rent. So if the market rent on a property is $1,000, it doesn't really matter if that property is selling for $30,000, $50,000, or $100,000. The market rent is the market rent, right? And oftentimes those two statistics or KPIs are different. So for example, I found a property that they were selling for $30,000, but the market rent was $1,400 a month. I saw another property, looked like it was in a nicer area. It even looked like a better property, but they wanted $60,000 for it. But the market rent was only $900 a month. I was more excited about the less expensive property, and it was a better deal. So it wasn't really about the numbers per se or getting a better deal. It's about what that virtual wealth flipping value is. So for example, if a property can rent for $1,000, I know that I can sell that property for $110,000. If a property can rent for $750, $800, most likely I can probably sell it for about $80,000 to $90,000, because we're looking at that monthly payment. What are they going to pay us every month, and what type of cash flow are we really getting? All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the market rent. You're going to look at what they're going to have to pay for taxes and what they're going to have to pay for insurance. Because remember, you're taking a person who's paying $1,000 to rent, showing them how they can pay $1,000 to own. So they're also going to have to be able to pay the tax and insurance. Once you subtract those two numbers, then that is the number that they're going to pay you monthly. Now, when you sell a home on owner financing, or when you want to position yourself in virtual wealth flipping, we're banks. So we're selling these properties for 30 years. So you want to back into that number. And you can use a general loan amortization calculator, or you can go check out my other video where I break down the owner finance value and how to come up with that. But basically, if someone is paying you a monthly payment at a 10% interest rate, that may come out to a sales price of $110, $120, $130. So again, I know if a property costs $1,000 per month for a rental, I can sell it for about $110,000 or $120,000. So for example, this property that I'm getting sits on 3 parcels. I know that the market rent is about $1,250 a month. I already have an end buyer in place that's agreed to purchase this property from me for $145,000. We're going to get $10,000 down and collect that over 15 years. And, he and I both know that that property is worth about $385,000, but I'm only getting it for $60,000. So it's a great win for both of us. Step 4, you want to spot the red flags before you bite. There's been plenty of times where I've seen properties online and I looked at the pictures and I'm like, oh my God, this is an amazing deal. And I just bought it without doing my due diligence. And I got burnt before, right? So you begin to learn. So one of the key things, since we're doing this virtually, you're not walking the properties. One of the things that I really enjoy about the strategy and leveraging on market is because I get to leverage a realtor. So your realtor really becomes your partner in crime when you're doing your due diligence on these properties. So one, before I buy any property, partnering and I'm discussing with my realtors and saying, hey, if this property is in the condition that I see it is online, I'm ready to move forward and make an offer. I just need you to go walk the property for me. And I prefer pictures because I can use these pictures when I exit the property, when I sell it to someone. So your realtor is really going to be the subject matter expert who's going to call out maybe some foundation issues for you. Maybe that's in a flood zone, or maybe there's some termites, or maybe that the shoddy work or that the roof is damaged. I didn't have any experience when I first started this, so I didn't even know what to look for. So it was oftentimes me working with the realtors and them calling certain things out that I began to get smarter. So what you want to do first is before you even put an offer in on property, you're going to have a realtor. You're going to ask for a couple of things. Will this property be sold vacant, right? Because we don't want a property that already has a tenant in it. We want to sell it to someone so we can get a down payment and cash flow. Can we get a seller's disclosure, right? The seller's disclosure by law should tell you about the condition of the property, how old the roof is, when was it last lived in, all of that fun stuff. And then having that realtor walk that property and take pictures. That is the most important step. If you don't do that, you could get burnt. Again, what happened to me, I seen a property online. It said that someone was currently renting the property. I got super excited because I seen the pictures. I said, it must be livable. I want to move forward. And the very first person that ran out there told me that there was feces all over the place and that the back porch needed a lot of work. The good thing is that this strategy is one of the most forgiving strategies out there, but you don't want to make mistakes if you don't have to. I had one of my students who made so many different mistakes and she still made money. She bought the property that I told her not to buy. She bought it at a price that I told her not to buy at a price, and she still made money. So step 5, closing deals without ever leaving your house. So this is where virtual investing gets really fun. While other investors are scheduling appointments, driving around, making offers and closing deals, we're doing this right from our computer. So I just sold a property 2 days ago. I had the property for about a year. I never seen it in person. I had to take it back from someone else. I had someone go see the property. They called me, said Michael was interested. Said, sure, go see the property in person first. She went and seen it. She said she liked it. I underwritten her, make sure that she could afford it. She wired me $3,000. We hopped on a Zoom call. I went over the contract with her. I recorded it, sent it over via proof.com. She was able to notarize it right on her phone. And, she said, Michael, what's the lockbox? I said, congratulations, you're a homeowner. Go secure the property and change the lock. It's really that simple and really that straightforward. And what's really cool is I never seen that property in person, and I'm gonna begin cash flowing month after month. So everything can be done digitally now, right? With, things like DocuSign, proof.com, Zoom, contracts, virtual inspections, remote notarizations for closing. I work with lenders who specialize in investor properties, and I use the same title company that I've been using for the last 5 years. They know the process now, and I've never been to a closing in the last 5 years, right? I do everything remote. So the key is building your virtual team before you need them, right? Get the relations set up with the contractors, your property managers, your lenders, and your title companies in your target markets. When you find a deal, you can move fast because all of your pieces are right in place. So in conclusion, virtual wealth flipping has completely changed how I think about real estate investing, and it can change your life too. You don't need to be a landlord dealing with tenants or toilet. I tell them, don't call me if the roof leaks. Don't call me if the toilet breaks, right? Your mortgage is due from the 1st to the 15th. You're responsible for the taxes and insurance. I'm not your landlord, you're not a tenant. So you don't need to rehab properties or manage contractors. You just need to know how to find solid properties, analyze them quickly, and connect them with buyers who need financing. Find properties using an online tool, verify the values with the comparable sales, calculate your virtual wealth flipping potential, spot the red flags before they cost you money, then execute the deals completely remotely while helping families achieve home ownership. Right. Like I said, I got my student Marco. He closed his first virtual flip maybe 2 months ago. He made about a total of $40,000 up front. And now he's collecting a little over $4,000 for the next 30 years on 2 properties. And he's got a third one coming up, all while he's busy being a realtor. And these are properties that are not near him. He's in Manhattan, and there's no way that he can buy properties this way in Manhattan. But he's a virtual wealth flipper. He's a real estate investor, so he's really excited. But the best part about virtual wealth flipping, you're not just making money, you're helping people become homeowners who couldn't otherwise qualify for traditional financing. So it's a win-win that creates lasting wealth. So if you want to master virtual wealth flipping and get access to my complete system, including deal analyzing tools, how to find leads, the step-by-step training, all that fun stuff, check out the Virtual Wealth Flipping Academy below. Stop trying to compete with every investor and traditional strategies, right? That old way that we used to do investing is outdated, right? Virtual Wealth Flipping gives you a blue ocean of opportunity where you can help people while building serious wealth. So like and follow along if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you at the next one.